glad you dropped by. And this is another little tidbit to what God has in store for His children this year for 2009. And I was praying and looking through the Word today and asking the Lord to just expand on something that He had dropped in my spirit a few weeks ago about women. And this year is going to be, well, I'll tell you, it's a great year to be alive, because everything that we read in the Word is going to begin to unfold. And if we keep our eyes focused on Jesus and eat only from the tree of life, we're going to be very excited, and we're going to be moving forward in our destiny. Now, the word for women is clearly marked in Genesis 3. And so I'm going to read that, take you there. And this is in the context of the big picture, this is when Adam and Eve were caught, basically. And God had called them, and they stood in shame, but eventually the conversation came around, and Eve said, "Oh, the serpent made me do it." And at that point, God turned to the serpent and said, and this is from Genesis 3:14, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life." And so He didn't curse Adam and Eve, but what He did curse was the serpent. "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers, and he will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." And even though I'm an English major, I had to look that word up, enmity. And I went to Webster's, and it was an amazing thing when I read as to it's not, enmity isn't just a dislike, but it's a deep-rooted hatred where it actually propels you into action. So let me just read that for you out of Webster's. You know, sometimes we know what words mean, but we don't know what words mean. And it's like when I was taking English, they always told me to make sure to go to the dictionary and clarify. So it denotes a strong, settled feeling of hatred, whether concealed, displayed, or latent. Hostility usually suggests enmity expressed in active opposition, attacks, etc. Active. And what God is doing is He's releasing grace. Grace, 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 grace. Power, 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 power for all His children. And I really feel in particular, God is going to put empowerment on that word. One of His promises we will actually see fulfilled in the year of 2009, in the sense where God is going to give the female the courage and the spirit of the Lion of Judah to walk forward in a sense of attack, to take back the land. And I know that this is going to be a righteous movement on the enemy. When we take our land back, what is rightfully ours, what's our inheritance. And in the context of the female gender, as I'm sure you're well aware of, over the years, that the woman has basically been labeled the one that caused the fall. In the early days, in the early church, women were looked down upon, and they were merely an item. And you take courses on women in history, you'll see that even here, right here in our own country, women were considered chattels. It's like they were like real estate as opposed to people up until 1925, where they began to move forward, an attack on the enemy per se, within the secular world, to take back that which was taken from them and to reestablish somewhat their position in the garden as being an equal to Adam. Because God really put us on earth to be a helpmate to Adam and to walk beside him, not behind him and not in front of him, but beside him. Each one having a specific role in the whole thing of life, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so God is going to reestablish that yet in a new way. I don't know about some of you, but as I was growing up, I went through the era of, you know, rebellion and Woodstock and burn your bra kind of feminine type of attacks. And because it was done in the spirit of rebellion, it was actually, as you know, the spirit of rebellion is part of the Antichrist. And God did not intend us to take back the land in the wrong kind of spirit, but to do it from a place of righteousness. And that's what he is sending down from heaven, so that women will have the courage to move forward with the right motive. And we talked about, you know, the importance of a pure heart. Who can ascend the holy hill? Those with clean hands and a pure heart. And so God is going to stand by his word, where he has put down that hatred. And you can even see that today in the church, just by mere observation. You know, you'll see that the men are leading, but there are many women who have basically signed up for the army of God. More women than men. It reminds me of Ottawa. In the government offices, there's more women serving in the government offices than there are men. But God is going to begin to stir up the women so that you will, well, let's put it this way. You will begin to see this year women rise to the top, and that within the body of Christ they will be viewed from the eyes of God, as opposed to the historical way of looking upon women as perhaps the weaker sex. And God didn't intend us to be labeled the weaker sex, but what he intended was that each gender, male and female, both made in his image, would begin to walk in the roles that he had designed for them. Not being one better than the other, but to be holding hands and joining up with the Spirit of God to move forward. So, back to 2009. If you are a female, get ready! Get ready for the grace. Get ready for the doors to begin to open. Supernaturally fly open. And for those of you with a pure heart and who are looking to be led by the Spirit of God. And you will see more women in ministry this year. So God bless you. Until we meet again, happy trails.